Well, good afternoon, everybody. And we've got a wonderful surprise for everybody today. We actually have a guest in the room. And who do we have, Kay?
Well, today we're joined by Deborah Mott, who, among other things, ran the successful e-commerce store Zakkia.
Oh, Zakkia.
She's here to share her experience of running an online retail business. Deborah, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks, Crystal and Kay, for having me. Thank you.
Okay.
I need to.
So welcome, Deb. Lovely to have you in the studio. And this is our first interview. So enjoy the ride.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
So, Deb, tell us a story of how you got started.
So, yeah, as they said, my name's Deborah Mott and I'm an entrepreneur and I've spent much of my career building and growing businesses. One of those businesses was Zakkia Homewares. It's a design-led homewares brand. We supplied retailers across Australia and New Zealand, and we were online, of course, as well. We specialised in a unique handicraft product sourced from artisans and manufacturers around the world, mainly India and Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And we focused on the quality and the craftsmanship and the timeless design.
Oh, wow. So how did you get into that, Deb?
I actually bought the business. I didn't start it. I bought the business from a lady who started the business. The main reason that she started it was to actually she realised that there was a gap in the market for handmade products. There was a lot of products on the shelves that were mass produced. And anyway, she only had the business for 2 years, and it needed to really be looked at not from the handicraft side. It needed to be looked at more from the business perspective, and that's when I stepped into it.
Yeah. And how did you find wanting to buy? How did you even think about buying this business? How did you get in that?
I was actively looking for something to do. I'd actually retired. I'd had a business before that. My previous business was Res Sleep, and I successfully sold that business, and I was actually retired. But I was too young to retire and too entrepreneurial to actually sit and do the retirement thing. And that's when I started to actively look for a business. And this particular opportunity popped up amongst others, but this one inspired me because I do have a creative flair. So it was something as well that inspired me to continue with the business and to look at it and to see what could be done with it.
Yeah. And why do you think she wanted to get out? Why was Zakkia on the market?
I think she'd taken it to a level that she was capable of taking it to. And it was, it was one of those things that it needed to have a lot more systems in place. But in saying that, it had been very well prepared. So, a lot of the preparation of the business, the processes and procedures, we continued on. But it just needed to go, it needed to be taken to another level.
Yeah. So like you saw an opportunity and then you got into it.
Yeah, I saw that opportunity. And as well, like I said, it actually sparked my interest because of the interest in the creative side of it. It was very, very fulfilling having a business with, sourcing products from artisans around the world. It's very, very rewarding.
They were beautiful products too.
Oh, they are.
I've got some myself.
Yeah.
I think all our kitchens have a little bit of them in.
Yes. Deb, looking back, what was the hardest part of the journey that people didn't see?
Probably the biggest challenges was competing against cheap imports and copycat products, and it is an area really. There's a lot of homewares out there. There's a lot of competition, and we would spend months developing and designing, and then see similar products just appear in retail stores that they literally had taken our products. We were a leader in the game as well, so a lot of people looked at Zakkia products and wanted to replicate those designs, and it was genuinely, copycat of Zakkia products that were out there.
Yeah. And can you just describe what your favourite product was that you had? Because I know you designed them as well, didn't you? So
Yeah.
what was your favourite product?
Yeah, I think towards the sort of the latter part of the business, it was the products that I actually designed myself that I got a lot more. The Isbar range, which was plates, it was actually based on the name. I liked actually choosing the names as well for the products, and Isbar, because of the Swedish heritage, the actual Isbar came from the Isbar chicken, which is believe it or not, this is a true story. It's the Isbar chicken, and it actually lays a blue coloured egg, and it's the only chicken that actually lays that particular colour blue.
Yeah, right.
And so then I thought, well, the Isbar, I wanted 3 colours, so I used the actual egg. So we had the yolk of the egg, which was a beautiful, deep orangey colour, and then the outside shell. And then the white was, sort of an off-white colour of the... Yeah, and I kept that very simple as well, just doing... It was actually... And we advertised it as well as a plate, a bowl, and a small plate, a dinner plate, a side plate, and a bowl. And that was it. That was the... there was a mug as well involved in it. So there was a mug, a side plate, a dinner plate, and a bowl.
Oh, I remember those, and I used to love seeing the colours of that. What I know, e-commerce, right, is a big thing. A lot of people have e-commerce sites, and so how did you find that going from your Res Sleep, which was obviously a retail store sort of environment where people came to you, versus a online platform? So what platform did you use?
I can't remember what it was called either, because as the bookkeeper,
Shopify?
I used to
No,
go.
we didn't. It wasn't Shopify. I
can't remember either.
I can't remember what
It'll
it
come
was.
to us.
It'll come to us later.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, bang, we'll...
Yeah,
have
so, but how did you find that sort of going from a brick and mortar sort of place to an online sort of environment?
Yeah, so the challenge with Zakkia was that it wasn't just purely online. For a business, the style of Zakkia, we needed to sell business to business as well. So the challenge was to actually be online but not be competing with your bricks and mortar, and that was the biggest challenge. I didn't realise that was going to be as big a challenge, because you were limited as to what you could actually do online, because if you moved the wrong direction, you upset your whole network. And we had a massive network. We had the network that was around Australia and New Zealand, so, and some overseas as well. Like we had a couple of overseas suppliers. We had one in Singapore and one even
Was
We
the
sold
US,
to the
remember?
US as well, I think.
Texas?
we had something that we had a distributor over there in the US as well. So it was, that was the challenge as well, was, not so much the online side of it was relatively easy. If it had have been an online store predominantly, it probably would have changed things a little bit. But we did the design, the manufacture, and sold business to business, and had the online presence. And we needed to have the online presence to do the marketing. So that marketing was, and trying to actually balance that and get our retail stores to actually understand that we needed to do the advertising for their benefit as well. So, but they were also, as soon as everything changed and everybody was online, they were creating online stores as well. So it was, that's the challenging side.
And Deb, what mistake taught you the most about the business?
Probably trying to do, probably trying to do a lot myself. That was difficult, because it was small business, very small to start with, and trying to actually trust the right people to do the right thing. And that's what I learned a lot, which I think in every small business, the staff is, it's sad to say, staff is, one of the problems that needs to, you need to actually be really careful as to who you employ and what their expectations are, because their expectations change dramatically, very quickly as well.
And what was so difficult about it, Deb, running a whole small business?
I think it was, you're definitely on 24/7, and it's not only the business itself. It's thinking about the design, the manufacturing, and there was a part of me that I was doing I was doing the design and trying to actually coordinate the manufacturing as well. So it's it's the same as I don't think there's any business that doesn't come with a lot of work, especially when you're starting out.
Work
There's
and a bit
lot
of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you manage that pressure, as you were saying, with your day-to-day stuff? How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think I handled it well. It was, I think the business itself was rewarding enough to be able to, handle what needed. And, it wasn't all doom and gloom. It was, there was beautiful trips over to Vietnam and to India and things like that. So, but you also had the manufacturers that you were actually, dealing with. They had families to feed. They were only small business as well. So, they needed their orders.
Where did you distribute the goods from? I think you had at one point warehouses in.
Yeah, no, we did. We had a main warehouse in Sydney, so everything got distributed from Sydney.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So other than even if we did anything overseas, we shipped the product overseas. So there was that was the big thing with Zakkia, is that it was a corporation. Every department that you can think of that's in any corporate business, there was that department in Zakkia as well. So it was a big operation. It was a big operation.
And was there a moment that changed everything for you or your business?
I think COVID was the big change for Zakkia.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was the real big change for Zakkia. That's when we the business wasn't sustainable after that, and I probably. There's probably a lot of people that hang on and don't realise when I probably could have kept on building that business when I say building it, COVID did, destroy it dramatically. But I may have been able to, sort of hang on and keep going. But I think I realised that it was something that wasn't sustainable long term. And now looking back, I don't regret that, because COVID probably was the indicator. We did extremely well during COVID as an online business, because that was the instigator of it. We couldn't actually sell to retail stores, so our sales on the internet went over completely through the roof. But the problem that happened was that all the shipping and everything was then very expensive, and that's what we couldn't.
Everybody was sitting at home, remember, and doing online shopping, and then looking in their cupboards and going, we need to renovate this, we need to change this. I need some new plates, I need some new this.
Yeah, well, I think we had some of our record sales during, but that wasn't that wasn't the whole aim of the business, because to do that, we would have had to have gone, to suppliers that just weren't going to be, it wasn't the same as an artisan supply business. We could have done that, but that wasn't wasn't the business model at all. The business model was to use artisans to actually produce handmade products properly.
Yeah.
So what is something that you believed 10 years ago that you no longer believe today?
Whoa, 10 years ago, what did I believe?
When did you start Zakkia?
Yeah, what year was that?
2009.
Okay.
So that was that was Red Sleep 2014, I think Zakkia was. So I probably always thought it, but the main I think staff, like I don't like to talk of people, but I think what I've learnt a lot along the way is that I always used to say to people, nothing has changed. The business hasn't changed. You've changed. And I think that's one of the big things that I've learnt, that people do come into a business. They take the job and they take on the role, but then they change. And the business is still going on exactly the same. And if you could rewind an interview, with somebody and, say to them, this is what you actually said that you were going, wanted or whatever. Nothing has changed, but you've changed. Your attitude towards the business has changed. The hurdles that somebody has to go over. And especially with small business is difficult because you need to employ people that, can pivot. Like they can't just have one role. It's impossible to, and that's hard on people as well, because we're trained to do specific roles. And, how many times have I heard, that's, not, my pay level, or that's not whatever. But I personally have never been like that. I started my career from the bottom, like from, I don't have a degree. I've got a good education, but I don't have a degree. And there's nothing that I've asked anybody to do ever that I haven't actually done myself in either in corporate or in small business. And that's, a mentality that you can't force that mentality on people.
Do you find that as a small business owner, you kind of hope or expect the staff to think the same as you do? And they actually don't, because they don't own the business. So expectations may be high.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I expect them to think the same as me, but I kind of expect them to maybe adapt the same. And that's, where the resistance is. For them to adapt is sometimes not possible. So, and that's why they're not entrepreneurial. And, balancing that is a massive task. It's a massive task, and it's a draining task as well. So it drains you.
I've got a question. You talked about pivoting. How did you pivot during that time?
Oh, I had to pivot. Like, I was pivoting like no tomorrow. Like, I mean, I'd come off a business that we'd grown. I had a great business partner in ResSleep, and we'd grown a massively successful business.
What was ResSleep, by the way?
ResSleep was, we had a network of clinics around Australia testing and treating for sleep apnea.
Yeah, right.
So that business was very, very well sorted. We'd gone from 5 clinics to 17 clinics in 5 years. So the comparison of what I went to with Zakkia was, it was completely different. It was really and I started with staff that they weren't happy with the previous owner, and that was disgruntled as well. And when I say not happy, I think they were happy when they were working with her, but they weren't happy that they weren't involved in the fact that she was selling the business. So we had unhappy people straight away, and that was very difficult to deal with when it's a small business. Very, very difficult, and many people had probably
How did
agreed.
you handle that?
It was difficult. One of them left straight away. And the other one stayed for a little bit. There was 2 predominant girls that were there, and one of them stayed for a little bit. And then when we decided that we'd move the business to the Northern Beaches, that's when she, sort of kicked up and said, "No, I'm not doing that either."
So how was that for you then, losing 2 key people?
It was it was bad. That wasn't a good, and especially the industry, we weren't familiar with the industry yet as well. So it was hard, but we did get a lot of support from the previous owner.
Yeah.
She did help us if need be, like we did. But that was, help from afar. It wasn't like having somebody in the business. So it was a difficult time. Like I honestly can tell you that the actual, sort of flow of Zakkia was, if anybody could have gone through, a small business that, just through a lot of hits and just things that happened, it was very notable as to, the distraction. Then we had people join the business that weren't really that familiar with the industry. And it's a very, very niche industry. The homewares industry is, it's very niche, and it's very creative, and it's a different mindset of people as well. Creatives are a completely different mindset. So that's, dealing with that as well. The personality types is beautiful, beautiful people, but it's not the same as dealing with, say, people in the medical industry. It's just
it's quite a change, isn't it, from the two different.
Completely different.
Yeah, so you would have enjoyed the change. Was that something that attracted you to buying this Zakkia?
Yeah, I like the change. Like I actually embraced it. I got on well with a lot of people through the industry, and it was more of getting to know them and getting to, sort of work the way that they worked. And I've, made a lot of friends in the industry. So,
yeah. Tell me just a quick question about your background. Were your family entrepreneurial?
No, not at all. No.
I wonder where you got that gene from, huh?
I don't know. I think my dad was, my mum and my dad were both very hardworking, individuals. So it was.
And you had a really interesting childhood too, didn't you?
Yeah, very much so.
You want to share a little bit of that?
I lived all over.
I know you can speak Spanish, right?
Yeah. See, well. Yeah, I've lived all over the world. Like I lived in South Africa, then I lived in South America, and I went to school. Like I didn't, I literally went to school in those countries as well. So I had a good exposure. Then I lived in the Middle East as well, in Jordan.
And was there South America as well?
South America, yeah. I lived in South America, in Peru.
Yeah, in Lima.
So, Peru. No,
Peru.
In Arequipa.
Arequipa.
In Arequipa.
Right.
So how did you end up in Australia?
That was my first.
It's been a man.
Relationship. Yeah, it was a man. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, back to business, ladies.
Yes.
What's one thing that most people in your industry get wrong?
Oh.
Do you think?
Boy, one thing. I don't think there's one thing that people get wrong. I think there's multiple things that we get wrong. I think, sort of maybe, like it is hard to, balance the books. That's the main thing, looking at the costs. Like it's all right having, these great sales and designing things and having a warehouse full of product, but it's the cost side of it. And I think a lot of people underestimate where their costs are coming from. Right?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? And swapping industries as well to, knowing the medical industry and then going into a homewares, e-commerce sort of environment would have been quite different.
Oh, for sure. And also we had to, we bought product in US dollars, and, that's not the same as, when we had our product that we bought for, that made a big difference as well, that you're watching that dollar fluctuate all the time, and that has an impact. Like it has a massive impact on business. Massive.
So when you bought product from China India and Vietnam, what sort of currency were you purchasing?
US.
So everything was in
Everything was in US
coming
dollars.
back to Australia.
Yep.
Yeah, so you'd have to watch that currency all the time.
All the time, yeah. It was, and we didn't have the finesse of buying US dollars up front and things like that, which we probably should have done. Like there's lessons to be learnt with that, and a good understanding. That's the good thing. You need a good accountant, good bookkeeper in business.
So what product did you use to manage all that money sort of stuff? How did you when you were purchasing, did you go through like a forward freighter person, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, we did. We had a freight forwarder that we had, good relationships with and a good account. We were a good account for them. And you build those, we would get, if we could work that properly and we had the need for container loads rather than, park containers, then that would work. Our big problem as well was New Zealand. Like New Zealand, you can't just ship into New Zealand from, it had to come to Sydney first of all, and then we'd ship over to New Zealand. And shipping by sea freight to New Zealand is practically impossible. So
why's that?
There just isn't the need for it. There isn't the call for it.
So there's not much.
No, so most things would go over by air freight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and in New Zealand as well, with there being the North and the South Island, we had customers in both.
Gosh.
And they used to, try and consolidate sometimes to be able to get a shipment over there, because they weren't buying in, massive amount of product. It was, so it's difficult to balance that side of it as well.
How did you get into New Zealand, by the way?
The social media, the actual Instagram page for Zakkia was massive. Like it was a boomer. So it was definitely done very well. Like the the actual exposure.
And is that where most of your business came from, through Instagram?
For any of the homewares style businesses, Instagram is, and you know, there's Pinterest and things like that, but Instagram was the main social media.
Did you have someone to manage all your social media?
Yeah, well, we did. That was up and down as well, because they come and go, and it's expensive as well for having some external person to manage your socials. That's another big cost, and you know, you've got to look at your return on investment sometimes, and sometimes you can't see that return, but it's, you know, that's another thing of taking into consideration when you're starting a small business is how are you going to manage that, and it manage the cost of it, not just manage the social media. It's managing the cost of that social media person, and you'll hit some good people that will be internal. They'll do it for you internally, but you know, then they leave and it leaves a gap. So
how did you manage that?
I did all sorts of things actually. I had a couple of people internally. And then I also used I outsourced it as well to consultants outside of the business, which was good. But, you know, it takes a long time for them to learn your business as well. So you can't just let them go. You've got to actually handhold for quite some time.
How many followers did you end up having on your Instagram account? Can you remember?
I think it was like 58,000 or something. It was massive. It was, for its time, it was really big. Yeah, it was big.
Really interesting stories, and love what you're doing. It sounds like a lot of fun and a lot of hard work, doesn't it, at the same time? Also we've just worked out what your previous e-commerce store was. Neato,
that's it. Yeah, boom.
I remember that.
Yeah, we all had a bit of Alzheimer's or whatever you had there.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Old people syndrome.
People syndrome.
Yeah, so Deb, what systems, habits or routines have had the biggest impact on your success, do you think?
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Look, I thrive on systems, so I've got this ability that I can walk into any business and I can sort of work out what needs to be done. I don't go changing it, you know, straight away, but I can work out what needs to be done. But it's not just within the business. It's probably, you know, sort of a lot to do with what you do outside of the business when you've got a small business to keep your head straight as well. And I did a lot of running when I had Zakkia, and that really helped. And I always used to say that, you know, I'd save things during the day and I'd put it into my running filing cabinet. And then when I was
used to run, just sorry to interrupt, you used to run from Bilgola to Warriewood. Did I remember that right?
I ran. I did a couple of half marathons. I did a lot. Like
before you used to get to work.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I did a lot of running. Like it was a lot of run. I was very, very fit. Like when I look back at photos, I was very fit, which I hope I can get to again.
You have to be fit living in Bilgola Plateau at the top of the hill, because when you go anywhere, you have to come back and up the hill.
Or ride up the hill.
I actually used to, or still do, pass Deb. Yeah. She's coming up, I'm going down, or the other way around. But anyway.
But yeah, I've taken to my little bike riding now, so it's easier to get up the hill on an e-bike than anything else.
Yeah, amazing. So what other systems did you use then, that you said you're a real systemised person? What other systems were you using in the business that really helped you?
Like mainly any type of system. I mean, we had Xero for our financials, and we had Neato, which worked well together because Neato did a lot for the e-commerce store, but just anything that, you know, if you can be systematic about it. And that's what I think a lot of small businesses think, that they don't have to put in a system because they're too small. And that really annoys me, because you have to, like, regardless of how small you are, you need to get those systems sorted, and it's much quicker and easier if you get them sorted when you're small than when you have to go and backtrack. And that's what I've always done in any business that I've been in, and any corporate that I've worked in as well, is that I've put systems in place. I have an awful memory, like a really bad memory, and I think that is probably why I do it, so that I can actually just, you know, it compensates for my memory as well, but just things have to flow as well. And also, you know, there's a lot of people, so many people that never question why they're doing something.
Yeah.
And that, I always question, every time I've started a job from when I was very young, I would always, sort of take note of what people were actually asking me to do, and I'd do it in that way, but I would always then ask as well, sort of why I'm, in my own head, I'd be asking, why am I doing that? There must be a better way of doing it. And that's what I would always go. And that's what I challenge everybody is, and any team that I've led, any staff that have worked for me, they'll know that I will say to them, if you can think of a better way of doing this, don't worry, we've got in place what is actually already working. Let's run with what you think is going to be better, and if we have to fall back, we can. And I think a lot of people are scared of actually introducing something new, and they just sit there and do. I'd ask people, why do you do it that way? And they'd go, because Jan, the lady before, told me that that's how I have to do it. And they'd never think of, sort of, I could actually change that and I could do it a lot more efficiently. And I think when you're in business, that's so important. So it's probably the number one thing is to cut out anything that takes you longer than you need to take to do something. And that's a cost saving, because your time is, money.
I'd say that's a great piece of advice to any new business owner.
Yeah.
Don't just do things the way they've
Or
always...
existing business owners.
Yes.
Not just new.
Yes.
But also get your systems in place. Like,
systems, I just want to define that a bit deeper.
Yeah.
So I know everybody uses the word systems, but so you're using Xero, you're using Neato for your products and for your sales. What other systems were there in place? Did you have like an operations manual? Did everybody have a set of tasks they did every day? How did that look?
Yeah, Zakkia had a complete manual for everything. We used
Google Docs.
No. What's the web-based thing that you put all your documents
Google.
No, not Google anymore. The older one, Dropbox.
Dropbox.
Yes, sorry. See how bad my memory.
Yes, I remember Dropbox. That's my Dropbox got mixed up with your Dropbox.
Yeah,
and
yes. But everything was contained in Dropbox for the whole operation of. I learnt a lot, because what ResSleep taught me was that ResSleep was actually a franchise business, so we were franchisors. So that was imperative that we had all our systems in place. I did my franchise certificate, so the qualification for franchising, and that's probably even more critical there, that you actually, from opening the door. So when people talk about systems, it's not just a computer system, it's everything to do with the business, everything, so that if you're not there as an owner, you can actually operate your business. Like even from the simplest thing of opening the front door, if somebody has to get there and open the front door, and you're the only person that knows how to open the front door, then you
can never open the front door.
You're buggered. the front door doesn't open. So that's one of the things that you've got to, and that's what I talk about systems. It's not just. And that's a solution for it being quicker as well. Other than, if you didn't open the front door, you'd have to phone somebody, you'd have to do, it's, an hour's work before you open the front door. So all of those things, I don't think people should categorise systems as being, you've got to have a computer system. It doesn't matter if it's the best, paper-driven system, that as long as there's a system there that actually works, and that you've got a system in place that if you're not there, somebody can pick it up and read it and understand it.
What was your favourite saying again? Washing the windows, sweeping the floor.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, I can talk about that forever. No, that was one of the things, when you had staff, especially in small business, and you have staff that they want to be creative, bless them, and they want to do things, but that like it's like the tap's dripping, they want to go and turn off the tap, but that tap's dripping and you're going to get to it and you're going to fix it, but you actually want them to be doing something else, not fixing the tap. And I used to say, there they are washing the windows when you want the floor cleaned. We know the windows are dirty. We know the windows are dirty. We can't see through them, but at the moment the floor is the important thing, and we've got to concentrate on it.
I like that.
And that's, and they'd be off, no, but I need to clean the window. No, but the floor, back to the floor, please, everybody.
Yeah. So if you put that in real business, phoning clients. Can you just phone the clients know that she wants to go do the Instagram or whatever? You go, no, the clients have to be called. That's like
10
washing
customers
the window
today, not the windows. Don't stop looking at the windows, like they're not going to be clean. But and I think that's that's human nature to actually distract from. And I can honestly tell you, being in a creative business, it is even worse. You can imagine all these beautiful
more window
colours.
cleaning.
That you can imagine all these beautiful colours and pots and everything, and they all want to be crowded around, giving you ideas of. But those customers need calling. We'll talk about the colour of the pots later, but the customers need to be called. So it's that's challenging. And you can't. You want the input from people as well. So it's a balancing act, and it's a very difficult balancing act.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Debbie, if you lost everything and had to start again tomorrow, what would you do first? So if you had to start again tomorrow, what would you do first?
Are you like in a business?
Yeah, in a business sense. Or would you start again?
There's always a part of me that is interested in any business that starts. I think, the enthusiasm has to be there. And I think that's what we lack probably as we get older and closer to retirement. We're thinking about other things. But I don't know that I would do anything dramatically different. Probably with Zakkia. I loved that business. I loved it. I loved the concept of it. I loved everything about it. It just wasn't a sustainable business at the time. It may, to tell you that the business is still there, and maybe one day it'll pop back up again. The business isn't gone. I still have a really good relationship with all of the suppliers. So I could, at the drop of a hat, I could actually bring the business back to life. If I did do it again, to answer your question, sorry about that. Now thinking about it, I probably would just keep it to being an online business, but that's easier said than done.
You mean to like B2C type of thing, business to customers?
Yeah, just purely online, like purely to have it online to, the issue there is the exposure of the product. You've got to expose the product somehow, and if you're purely online, it might be one little retail shop. That again is another issue because you're a one little retail shop in one, suburb that you want to expand bigger than that. So it's a big balancing act. And now you've got places like Kmart that have just opened a massive.
What's it called? K
Home.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a massive competition for a lot of people that are in the very curated area of.
And they pick all the
Homewares.
popular designs, don't they, and then bring in their own designs around that.
Well, they have the ability to mass produce them in China, wherever it is that they're mass producing. But that wasn't like I said before. That wasn't the business plan for Zakkia. Zakkia was artisan, handmade, and that's what we wanted it to be. And to support. I used to get a kick out of when we went to trade fairs. There'd be mugs, which was the Speckle collection, which was a beautiful, beautiful collection that you'd actually see the imprint of one of the maker's hands on the actual mug where they'd done they'd actually done the gloss part of it, and that was special. That was special. That was unique. That was a very unique thing about the product. So each one was an individual, its own little entity.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember those big goblet glasses as well.
Yeah,
they were like, a lot of them were all imperfect, but I love that about them as well.
Yeah, so I've got some of the speckled, I've got a speckled plate.
Oh, yeah,
I've got a speckled little jar as well with a little top.
Yeah.
Where I put my jewellery in.
Oh.
And people don't appreciate what goes into that, particularly the speckle range that was there. That's reactive glaze. And you can lose an entire kiln just from one piece being in the wrong spot. And it's a very, very special way of actually producing product, and it's not appreciated. So the price then comes into it because, to produce one of those plates, people are like, oh my God, I'm not. But that is a special plate to eat off. Like that's, or the mug is a very, very special mug. But it's whether, your audience is appreciating that.
Yeah.
Something that's going through my mind, and it might be the wrong thing, I'm thinking of the Amazons of the world. A lot of people sell their products through Amazon. I don't know what you think
Yeah,
about
we did.
that.
Zakkia sold through Amazon.
All right.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, Amazon didn't. They had to actually retract because they had a very, very weird system that they actually. It wasn't so much. We didn't sell it. There's a couple of ways of selling through Amazon, and Amazon actually invited us to stock the product within Amazon.
Okay.
But what happened was that when the stock was actually low, they would then place another order.
I remember now.
Yeah, and it was really like, but then they, sort of over-ordered, and then they'd be sending back the product, but then they'd order it again because they were out of stock. So I actually brought that to their attention that it was, we ended up pulling out. We pulled out from them because they weren't doing a great job. It wasn't the right platform as well for the product that we had. They thought it was, and it wasn't. So it was,
We
it was
haven't
mutual.
spoken about your 3PL, your third-party logistics, that sort of thing. So you brought the product into Australia, and then obviously you didn't have it at home in the garage.
Oh, no. Yeah, we had a 3PL over at Chester Hill, and they did a fabulous job. They were, a fabulous job. So, but it was still, we had to monitor everything.
So they picked and packed everything for you?
Yeah, they picked and packed, but everything had to be barcoded. So, that was another element. It wasn't just small business like that for us to actually sell B2B. Every product had to be barcoded as well. So, that was a massive operation. Just even though it was a third party that we were distributing from, we had to monitor the stock, do stock takes, do everything,
How did you manage your pricing of your goods? So you manufacture, you then have online, and then you've got your 3PL plus delivery and all of that. How did you work out your pricing?
Well, you have to, like when that's the problem that some people have, is that if you've got to actually set your retail price, because if you don't have a retail price set high enough, then you can't sell wholesale. So your wholesale, and the majority of your product is actually wholesale. So you've got to have enough sustainability in the business to be able to sell your product. So your retail price is, relatively high if you're going to do, and that's that's why I said before, probably if you were literally going just business to customer like an online store, then it would be easier. But you've got to take into account when you're starting off small that if you do that, you've got to have enough margin to be able to give somebody else a cut if you want to go and sell in a retail store.
Yeah,
So,
that's the tricky part, isn't it? You can
yeah.
set your retail price too low.
Oh, way too low.
And then, or you could set your buy price too low, and then if you go sell to like a bigger entity there where they have their different fees and cuts and everything, and then you can find that your margins are way too small.
Small, yeah. Well, some people can never do it because they've set their retail, their prices. They're just there's nothing
So
in it.
instead of setting your cost price higher, you're setting your retail price higher.
You
Is
have
that
to
what you're
set your
saying?
retail price high, and then that sometimes that retail price is out of people's reach. But you've got to, if you want to sell online as well, you've got to have a retail price.
Yeah. And then how did you manage, like obviously for certain customers you'd offer discounts as well. How did you manage that?
Look, we didn't discount that. That's what we tried not to do. When you're doing sales online, you've got to offer, a discount. So but really discounting was, what we'd do if we were online selling at a discount, then we'd discount to our wholesale as well, so they'd be able to buy cheaper, so they could actually sell it cheaper as well. Because if not, because it was a small, niche product, people would go, well, I'll just go onto the Zakkia website and buy it.
Yeah.
So instead of going to the shop so we had to make sure that they could afford to actually put it at the same price. When we went on sale online, we had to make sure that they could go on sale, and that was it's hard to balance it.
Yeah, and what was that Friday? The November sales. What was that called again? The November.
Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday.
Oh, that's global. So
yeah, you did really well in those ones. Didn't you?
But it was also it was good, but your margin shrink dramatically during those times. So you've got to sell a bit of volume.
What's your advice to the listeners? And just, Deb, if you could just give advice for people who do have the online stores around that pricing? What would be your words around that?
Oh, they've just got to make sure that they set their retail pricing, like their retail pricing, or they have to think about whether it's worth the product. Like to start with, they've got to have a look at it and go, boy, we're going to have to sell this for X amount of dollars retail so that we've got enough room to be able to sell to wholesale as well. So that's the balancing thing, is when you're in both areas, which a lot of homewares businesses are. They need to be in both areas. They've got to be selling business to business, and it's a catch-22 as well, because they've got to be doing that to get exposure for the product. So they want it in as many retail outlets as they can to have exposure, but then they've also got to have their own website to support marketing and sales and things like that as well. So it's a balancing act, and I the advice is that retail price has to be, and then you've got to test the market. Would somebody pay $100 for one plate? That's the question, and how many are you going to sell? We only did small batch manufacturing, so it wasn't, and that's where the difference is. If you're doing mass production, well, or you can buy in mass for, your cost comes down, when you're buying more. For us, it didn't really, because there were small artisans that we were dealing with, they weren't really interested in us talking to them about mass production, because they couldn't do mass production. They were doing small artisan batches, and that was the price.
And that would have been good for the storage of all the product too, right? Like before the sales, obviously the more stock you have, the more it costs you, right? So, and especially if it doesn't sell.
Yeah, I probably would have done something a little bit differently. I may have kept more product over in Vietnam and India, worked out, that's probably one different thing that I would do if I was doing it again, or if I restart the business. I would probably store more product over there and bring it in when I needed it, not have a massive third-party warehouse. But that's another balance, you've got to, it's not just a, yes, that's definitely the answer. You've got to test that as well and see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're getting towards the end now, I think. Al, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever received is probably to not be just not to be complacent. You've just got to be careful. That's the best piece of advice that I've had.
What do you mean by complacent?
Well, you've just got, not to assume. You can't assume that you've got to actually keep going. You've got, you can't assume that everything's okay all the time. You've got to literally be on your guard in business. You've got to be watching everything.
Yeah.
You can't, once you take your foot off the accelerator, you've just got to be careful. You never be complacent.
You can never take everything for granted either, can you?
No.
Things change. If you think about your business from 2014 to post-COVID, what you only closed it last year or the year before. What were all the different, I know we're going through another funny stage again with the economy and, the wars and all this stuff. So what did you go through in that time? Because I know it's never something is always happening around the world and in our environment, so...
Yeah, I think, COVID was the big one, I think.
Very big,
I think that was the very big one. I mean, before, with Zakkia, it was, we were still, sort of learning the business, getting used to it, getting into it, and then COVID hit. So it was, and the thing was, COVID was bittersweet. It was really good for the business. But then, when all the shipping costs, went through the roof and everything else, that's when it was like, no, we can't do this. It's just not, it's not possible. Yeah, it's not possible to do it. And you've got to make a decision at some point because you don't know when it's going to end. We were all in the same boat. We didn't know what was going, it's the same as whatever we've got now.
The petrol crisis.
Yeah, we don't know, is it going to end? Is it, that's the thing, is that, and that's why you can't, there is always something around the corner. It's, there's not, you can't sit there and just think, smooth sailing.
Wouldn't
That would be nice.
There's no such thing, is there?
So if every small business owner listening today could do just one thing this week, what would you tell them to do?
Oh, I'd look at their costs, where all their costs are coming from. Like, that would be the first thing. If they don't know, and not even, they probably do know, but they need to actually go through their costs all the time.
They probably don't know.
So that's the biggest thing.
How did you do that in your business?
I was onto it. Like, I did. I watched, and that's probably why I called the business, at the time that I did, to actually put it on hold, was because of the costs in the business. Like, it was, yeah. But we were on top of. When I say we were on top of, I was aware there was. There was times when I had to make some very, all through my career, I've had to make some very, very difficult decisions on costs, like where the cost savings come from. So it's not new to me, but I think it's one of those things that, some people are just, they're either blind to it, they don't want to know, or, they literally, when business is going well, nobody cares about it.
No.
Nobody cares about it. When your business is going really well, it's like, never mind, but you need to know what those costs are all the time, or they'll get you. They'll get you at some point.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
And what's something you've learned about building a successful brand that most business owners get completely wrong?
So
what's something you've learned about building a successful brand that most business owners get completely wrong? So what have you learned that other business owners get wrong?
Oh, what have I learned? I've probably learned a lot and got a lot wrong. Like, I've got a lot wrong.
Difficult question.
Yeah. What have I learned? I've learned, that you've got to actually watch everything. Like, you do have to watch everything in your business, but then you've got to balance that of being, you've also got to let people do their job as well. And it's very hard when you're, that close to the business, and most business owners are, and especially most small business owners are. We're very close to our businesses, and when you see somebody's not quite doing it the way you want it, it's very hard to not tell them. But then, what if you left them, and what if it was great? It's all the what ifs, and that's, probably I probably learned a lot of, sort of self-managing my, sort of control, like, not being over-controlling in the business as well. But it's hard. Like, it's not an easy thing, and it's not, you kind of do it and go, today I'm not going to be in control, and something happens. Something happens, and then you go, oh boy, I better get back in control again.
Did you ever have to deal with difficult customers?
Always.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
How did you deal with them?
I don't mind dealing with difficult customers. I think it's just it's also a reward for the bit. I always think of it that if you're dealing with a difficult customer, you're actually talking to them about your business, and it's an opportunity, and dealing with them and handling it. And I've dealt with many over my career in corporate and everywhere. So it's not hard, but I think it's just a matter of understanding what and solving their problem. Like, if it's a genuine problem, and it can be solved, everything can be solved. There's nothing that can't be solved.
I think I've always taken the sort of view that if you have a difficult customer, you're often learning a lot about how you can fix your business. So if you could keep some of your depending on what they're difficult about, but sometimes you can learn, like, might be a process or a system or something that we can improve that makes their thing. And, Australians generally don't complain, so they just walk away mostly. And so you don't often get that opportunity to fix I just had a client walk away from one of her suppliers because she sent a note asking for something, and they took 2 weeks to get back to her. And then she sent another note, and they took another 2 weeks to get back. And she said, I can't work with people that take so long. And she took a business elsewhere. And I said, did you ever have that conversation with anybody? And she said, no, I just took it away. It was just annoying. And I just thought, they probably could have spoken to somebody and given them the opportunity to fix that. There could have been a whole raft of reasons why. But it's interesting that if people do take the time to complain, it's often a gift that we should listen to, because people don't always complain. They just walk away. And then you go, what did I do wrong? So you don't often learn from that. So, or you could ask them,
I used to I'll always thank somebody if they bring a complaint, because it's as important as selling something. Fixing problems is part of business. Like that's what we're there. That's what we're there to work for, is to fix problems most of the time.
And to keep your business going really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Deb, how did you manage, one of the last things, how did you manage your work-life balance? That's always a big one for small business owners.
Yeah, I've always been good at that. Like I make time. I think as well, my husband is, I think he understands it very, very well. And so he would make sure that things were booked as well in advance, so that we did have a good, and all through both businesses that I've had a really, really good work-life balance. So
how did you work that out?
I think it's, I love working. That's the other side of it, is that sometimes, work has also been, my hobby. So that's hard for a lot of people to actually understand, because sometimes you actually enjoy working. So it's not, what is work-life balance? For some people, it's, I like to get things cleared up and, then I can relax as well. So it depends on what people's definition is of work-life balance. If it's, making sure that you go on 10 holidays a year, well, that's different than, making sure your brain's nice and clear, that you've got everything organised in your work side and that you go on one holiday a year. So I think it just, as long as I got in my runs and my fitness and, that side of it, then I would be, and I made time for that. And I think you have to make time for that. But that's discipline as well. It's not just, it's like washing the windows when the floor needs cleaning. Some people prefer to be sitting down at the desk going, oh, but I'm working, rather than going, and it's an excuse. So, some people complain about work-life balance, but are they really complaining about work-life balance, or are they doing really what they want to do? So,
is it an attitude, do you think?
Well, maybe. It needs a discussion. And also, like I said, it is very different. Some people's idea of work life is not the same as somebody else's. I actually love working. I love working. I love business. I love talking about business. I like being in business, and I like the business activity. I think it's it sounds weird, but I think it's actually quite fun.
I don't think it's weird. I think Crystal and I can totally agree, or I certainly can totally agree with that. Yeah. I enjoy working.
I do too.
And it's, so there's a social side to it. There's a lot that you miss when you're in, I've been through a corporate career as well as, having, my businesses as well. And, there's the social aspect to working. So it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think everybody should look at work as being the biggest drag. That's what we're on the planet to do. We're
built to work, aren't we?
We are. Nothing's going to happen
but
if we don't.
But if you enjoy what you do and you get a buzz out of it, and it gives you, I guess, it gives you, something to do, I guess, and something to look forward to, and your brain's getting used, and you're solving things and working things out.
I think there's a new thing that people get their birthday off for. I think a lot of people used to love going to work on their birthday and getting a cake. And
no, I didn't like the cake. Sorry, no.
Oh, we could choose the
Didn't
cake.
like the cake or the singing happy birthday bit.
Yeah, but some people do. That's the difference. Is that some people,
you go home to the cat and the cat doesn't sing to you.
you take most of the cake home for the kids, and
I agree. It's that team and working towards common goals as well, and achieving things and stuff can be very exciting. So what's next for you, Deb? What's on the cards?
Well, I'm back at a business that I started 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh, full circle.
Yeah, so that's a funny story as well, because I sort of, as this sort of bit of a lull with Zakkia is there, that I was looking for something to do, and I caught up with the guy that we started the business 20 years ago, And he said, well, just come and finish what you started. So, yeah, so it's back in medical, which is quite exciting. So, yeah, no, I love doing that. And he treats as if I'm still in business with him, but I do, all the things that nobody else wants to do, which I just love doing. So, there's nothing that I really won't do. And I want to see that business succeed as well, because it's, that the medical industry is a very, very difficult industry as well. And talk about pricing, that's another story.
Oh, it's a whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult industry. It's a hard industry. It's a busy industry. It's a big industry too, isn't it? And
well, he's small business in, sort of we're one of the very small players, but he's kept that business going for 20 years. And
is he a specialist or something? Or?
No. He's a biomechanical engineer, and he does a lot of design of products as well. But he likes to work with doctors to do design of products.
Yeah, right.
It's a nice. That's Horton Medical, so it's a nice.
Yeah.
That's a great area to be in. Like that's that medical space. You really are. Solving problems, like big problems as well.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of working like with doctors. So he'll go, because these doctors all need, something, like there's, some little bit of something that you wouldn't even really think, oh my goodness, what is that? You look at some of these products and you think, what on earth is that for? And
this is to make surgeries easier. And
just to make and it's crazy. It's like a workshop, like it literally is. There's metal bars and silicon things and stuff that gets put together for lifting uteruses and goodness knows what else. So it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting the way that, and his business is a little bit different as well because he does the manufacturing. So it's like a lot of the medical device products are. Distributors around Australia, and that's what they do. They bring them in from, the bigger companies and they distribute them. But his is a little bit niche because not only does he bring in a couple of products, but he also designs and makes some products as well.
Sounds similar to what you used to do.
That's it. It's a bit like Homewares, but in a different area. Yeah.
Well, as we bring this plane into land, Kay, any final thoughts from you?
No, I love your comment about the windows and the floors. I've not heard it before, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I've never heard that before, so that's my takeaway. Yeah. Plus, I never realised or never actually thought before, and I should have, being a bookkeeper, about the fact that you have to put your retail price high if you're also selling wholesale. Yeah, I'd never thought about that. So,
if you're thinking of selling, the thing is, you've got to, some small businesses, and especially in the creative area, they go to the markets, they do these things, and they start selling the product at a very low price, and then think, oh gosh, I need a network, and then they're going, but what am I going to do with the price? I can't, there isn't anything to move here.
Yep.
So,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they got to start off thinking big rather than start off thinking small. And with their systems, like this is my advice to anybody with their systems and their pricing, they've got to think big. So if they think, oh, we don't need a computer system, we don't need a system for that, we're too small, they're wrong. They need to have, their business cards organised, their opening of the door, whatever it is, like everything that they do day to day, they need to document it, however they want to document it, wherever they want to document it, and have a proper system that they add to all the time, because one day they're going to have to start from scratch, and doing it on a massive level is much harder than actually starting off and just building on it and putting it into place. So
really good words. And I think my takeout is different pricing, but also I've loved how you've had a very different and varied career. And I love the fact that you love business and that you've got a great joy out of everything that you've done, So I think that's like a great legacy, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And also, going back and working for somebody is, something that so many people said to me, oh, you won't be able to do that, you won't be able to work for... But I can, I'm more than happy to work for Horton now.
I'm not sure I can do that, but anyway.
And you've been listening to Small Business Sorted. Thanks, Deb. We really enjoyed chatting with you. And hopefully we'll get you back again, right? There's plenty to talk about, I think.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah.